The monsters look like Hot Wheels in the shadows of the last great Coliseum, but by no means is this a small show. You're about to see monster truck history. It's Bristol, baby, and this is Geared Up. That's gonna be today's battlefield. Welcome to Bristol Motor Speedway for the clash at the Coliseum. My name is Ryan Titus and I'm joined by Austin Ashley. Now Austin, what a show we've got on tap today.
Yeah, we got some of the top drivers in the country competing in both racing and freestyle. And don't forget, we have to set that racing bracket with qualifying. It's gonna be huge here. Let's see our field of trucks.
You see some of our competitors right there. A massive show like this needs a massive lineup, and we've got 12 monster trucks, including Tripp Jones and Smashosaurus. He's the rookie in a field of veterans.
Too Tall David Olfert here in a brand new truck. Dozer on a new team.
His former boss, Mike Christensen, Vendetta, he's here. He's known for being fast in racing. He's going to be one to watch for.
And taking the truck out for the first time this year, it is John Gordon and Beck Company.
And Dalton, Widner, Jurassic Attack, he's the hometown hero. His parents are here supporting him. I know he wants to win badly. The crowd cheering him on like he's a rock star. Now, as the trucks do a hot lap for intros, let's jump into qualifying.
And you can see the trucks lining up here for the first pass. We have Dalton, Widner, and Jurassic Attack going up against Jared Smith and Cybertech. But remember, fans, this is qualifying. So it is a race against the clock. Let's see who comes out with the fastest time here.
These two have very different experience levels, and Cybertech taking the wrong course around the track. Yeah,
it looks like a little bit of a different track. Jared Smith is taking on over there. Taking a look here at Dalton, Widner seeming to have a good run. Hopefully we get a good look at what a really good time on this track is going to be with following that race course here. You see, like you had mentioned, Jared Smith and Cybertech ahead right now, but seeming to miss that turn.
Yeah, he's ahead, but is this run going to count? I don't think it is. As they cross the line together, Cyber Attack first to the line, but as you can see, he's disqualified. Jurassic Attack, the better in those two, with a 38.31. He's your fastest qualifier at the moment. Now, this is a massive race course. It's a little complicated and unintuitive in some spots, so let's take a look at it from above, Austin.
Yeah, so these drivers will start facing the bus stacks and they will be heading on over into the berm turns. Those berm turns have these cones that we see right here. If they knock those over, that's a 5-second penalty, and then they'll move right under the under part of the over jump.
Then it's a hard turn up towards the far end of the track where they're gonna make a U-turn and come back down over top of the over under jump. That's about a 40 to 50 foot gap to clear.
But they aren't done yet, because then they go all the way down the straightaway to this hard corner at the end, hop on over this roller on this last straightaway and over the other side of the berm.
But they got to be careful because the buses are sitting right there dead ahead. You come in hot, they're going to give you trouble.
And like we mentioned before, Jared Smith and Cybertech seeming to miss that berm at the very beginning. Could be a complete misunderstanding of the track, but for now, he does not receive a time for qualifying.
So, now that we know the racing course, let's move on with qualifying. And next up, we're going to see Smashosaurus, Tripp Jones, the son of Tailgator driver Tim Jones. He's going to be matching beside Bad Company and John Gordon, a guy who has a lot of experience on big tracks like this. Let's talk to him.
Guys at Overdrive have built an awesome track out here. It's got a combination of a little bit of everything. It's got dirt, it's got cars, it's got buses. It's really got a little bit of everything, and I think it's going to be an awesome track to run. There's enough time in it that if somebody does mess up, you can still come back and win even after a mess up. So I'm pretty excited. I haven't been in the truck since September, so I'm really excited to get back out there.
And talk about messing up. John Gordon's behind the rookie. Tripp Jones leads halfway through the course, Austin.
Yeah, and we see John getting some huge air over there, but like you said, Tripp Jones still in the lead. John Gordon seeming to take that berm the opposite way of what we've seen other drivers going.
And Tripp Jones crosses over the finish line right there. You see him knock over a cone. That's not going to penalize him because he had already finished the course. John Gordon coming in a little bit behind. And looking at the times, John Gordon goes into third for the moment, and Tripp Jones sits at second with a 41.46. Jurassic Attack still leads in qualifying.
And coming up next is one of the dark horses in this racing competition, going out for qualifying. Brandon Derrow and Bad News Travels Fast taking on what some might call more of a freestyler, Tim Jones and Tailgator in qualifying.
This is an interesting matchup. I know they're not racing, they're just qualifying beside each other. But these two have very different comfort zones, I guess, for lack of a better term. Brandon Derrow mostly runs the smaller circuit, the smaller speedways, fairground shows. Tim Jones, he runs toughest. He's done Monster Jam before. He's done big Manson shows. He's used to tracks like this, but he's got Brandon Derrow to match up with, and they're side by side right now.
And you can't forget, Ryan, that Brandon has done a couple of seasons with Monster Jam, has some experience. It's been a little bit, but you can see he's kind of taking it out right now, and it looks to be Brandon Derrow's going to get the better of the two times, with Brandon Derrow coming in at a 36.81. Tailgator not seeming to finish that qualifying pass.
Yeah, Tim Jones drove off, and we're not sure what's wrong with him right now, but Brandon Derrow, look at him sitting at the #1 position right now. A great run for him, smooth like he always is. Now, let's take a look at the next matchup. It's going to be Darren Basl and Blockhead, a guy who's very fast in racing, and Elliott Miller and Colossus. Now, Colossus, you take a look at those tires, those are about as bald as they get, and something wrong on the start, Austin.
Yeah, it seems like Elliott was caught sleeping at the line, or something happened at the line where we saw Darren Basl go out on Elliott. Elliott's still seeming to kind of struggle trying to get his bearings on this race, kind of going over that berm there at the far end. Yeah,
and those bald tires aren't helping him get around this course. You see Darren Basl swinging wide right there. They're both struggling, it looks like, on this racing pass as Elliott blasts up and over that jump right there. That was a hard landing.
Yeah, I think one thing that's going to be interesting to watch tonight is how these drivers get used to this track. The jumps are made of dirt, but the solid asphalt is where they're turning, so it is a little bit harder to turn these monster trucks. With the times coming in, we're seeing the time for Blockhead at 40.76 and Colossus at a 44.53, sitting in 3rd and 5th respectively.
Now, let's take a look at this replay and see what happened on the starting line. If you look on the right side of the screen, Darren Basl's starting light is red, and then it turns green, but look at the other light.
Yeah, Elliott's light still hanging on that red. We definitely see a lot of lighting issues in the monster truck industry, but we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that when it comes to racing. Here, it not mattering as much in qualifying. As we move into our next pair for qualifying, Jerry Beck and Dirt Crew and Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant. Let's hear what Cliff had to say about racing today.
Well, first thing we did was get a little tune on the motor, but most importantly, we changed out our transfer case gears, give it a little bit of a taller gear, try to get a little more of a top speed. Most of the time, we're in very confined quarters, and obviously this is not confined. I think my biggest concern out here is keeping it on all 4 wheels. They did a little bit of testing this morning and came back up to the pits and said that this asphalt is extremely grippy. So we're going to try to keep it on all 4s and look for these trucks to possibly get up on 2 wheels.
Cliff is a very smart and technical driver. He's always analyzing the course before hitting the track, and there they go.
Yeah, they're often, seems like the early lead goes to Jerry Beck and Dirt Crew going on over that bus and heading into the berm.
Now, this is interesting. Jerry Beck and Dirt Crew is not known as much of a racer. He's known more as someone in freestyle, someone who does wheelies really well, but he's killing this course right now.
Yeah, and we see Cliff Vowell going around that hairpin turn here at the end. Seeming to struggle around it. Actually, Jerry Beck's struggling even more, going out wide, going over the over and under. It's even, and Cliff Vowell comes up short, and he's trying to save it, and he can't.
Oh, no. Virginia Giant is upside down. Now, he said he was worried about getting up on 2 wheels, but I don't think that's what he meant. That was a nasty crash.
Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant, I've never seen him take that hard of a crash in my life, and we see Jerry Beck crossing the finish line with a time of 46.14. But the story, Ryan, Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant just flipped the truck.
Yeah, Cliff is one of those guys you never see on his roof. As we take a look at the replay, he keeps the turn fairly tight, but look at the rear steering, it doesn't recenter. By the time it does and he gets on the gas, it's too little, too late. He clips that landing ramp, and Cliff doesn't run a locker in the front. So when he gets up on the nose, there's just not much he can do.
And you see those shocks compress when he kind of cases that back ramp. Who's to say that there isn't more damage going on within the suspension? Jerry Beck and Dirt Crew also struggling with that turn, seeming to get over the over-under. Actually, he cases it a little bit too.
Yeah, both of them having issues on that run. Even Dirt Crew only sitting in 7th out of 10 right now in qualifying. And as they flip Virginia Giant over, you see the body flapping around. That's going to take a lot of work.
And you hate to see the body looking like that, but the show must go on. We're heading into our next race, going up against two former teammates, Mike Christensen in Vendetta, going up against Too Tall David Olfert in Dozer. Let's hear what he has to say about this new racing track.
I'm excited. It looks like a very technical, very drivers type of track, which I'm excited about. I like tracks like that. Making left and right hand turns will definitely separate the men from the boys. So hopefully I can be one of those men and go some rounds.
Hey, these are looking like some good runs so far. Bad news, still leading with a 36.81 as Vendetta makes a smooth turn right there, and Dozer's not far behind.
Yeah, we went from maybe the most chaotic run we've seen all night to possibly the two smoothest runs we've seen all night. Let's see where these times come in as they're going through that final straightaway, and Vendetta seems to get the better of the two times. Let's see where those times come in.
Those look like some good runs to end out our qualifying round. As the times come up, they're both under 40 seconds. That stadium racing experience coming in handy right there. As Vendetta qualifies first and Dozer qualifies fourth, they both look fast. And as we take a look at the results, Vendetta, Bad News, Jurassic Attack, and Dozer are going to advance straight into round 2.
You'll see Elliott Miller there in 7th place with a 44.53 in qualifying. I know we saw him kind of sleeping at the light, but it was really a light issue. Now in qualifying that doesn't matter because he leaves at the light and that's when his time starts. But where it'll come into effect is his race against Cybertac in Jared Smith, as we can see on the bracket.
It'll be interesting to see how Elliott fares when the lights are working correctly. But the race I'm looking forward to is Bad Company versus Dirt Crew. They qualified similar times and they're going to start the racing bracket out next on Geared Up. Welcome back to Bristol Motor Speedway as the drivers sit in the back awaiting their matchups and the trucks get a moment to cool off. It's time for us to jump into round number 1, Austin.
In the first race, and round number 1 is going to be between John Gordon and Bad Company going on up against Jerry Beck and Dirt Crew. Now, two kind of drivers that did seem to struggle here in qualifying. Let's see how they fare when they're actually against each other as opponents and not against the clock.
Yeah, oh, Bad Company going really big right there, getting a slap wheelie coming down, and Dirt Crew's got a lead right now. He's looking fast again. Jerry Beck, just like in qualifying, he knows how to do this first part of the track.
And let's see how Jerry handles this far corner here. We saw him struggle in qualifying and then kind of come up short, and he's struggling again.
They both went wide. No one's really moving. John Gordon breaks loose first, though.
And John soaring through. We see Jerry Beck still far behind.
He's pulling off.
It seems like this is gonna be John Gordon's to lose here. We see he's going across the finish line. John Gordon taking away that racing win here in round 1.
That was no contest. Jerry Beck had issues there on that turn on the far end of the track, and that was all she wrote for Dirt Crew. Now, let's move on to our next matchup, and, well, it's not going to be a matchup at all. It's going to be a bye run for Daron, Basl, and Blockhead. He was supposed to race Virginia Giant, and he's broken. Now let's hear from Daron Basl about his thoughts on the racing course.
Racing course, the biggest course we've been on this year so far, so it looks really fun. Technical driving, which I like to do. The first half's really tight turning, and then you got to stretch it out at the end, and then finish on a big jump. So it's going to be interesting to see who can handle all of that wrapped up in one package.
And you heard him talk there. Daron Basl, known to be super technical, even his team boss, Jerry Beck, out there calling him the professor with how technical he is in that monster truck.
He's a very smart driver, and that looked like a strong pass right there. As he crosses the finish line, he's going to face Dozer in round 2. Now, moving on, it's going to be Elliott Miller and Colossus racing Cyber Attack and Jared Smith.
Yeah, and this is my race to look out for. This is Elliott Miller and Colossus going on up against Jared Smith in Cybertech. Two drivers that seem to have some issues in qualifying as well, with Elliott Miller struggling with that light and Jared Smith struggling with where the race course was.
And they're off the line. Hey, Elliott keeping it low to the ground and blasting out to a lead. Wow, look at him take that burn. Very aggressive. He is killing it right now. But I spoke too soon. Look at that. He has issues right there as Jared Smith goes into this turn. keeps it tight to the obstacle. He's looking good.
Yeah, and Jared Smith really tiptoeing around this course where we see Elliott Miller really hard on the throttle and brakes, really keeping that pace up.
Yeah, if you know Elliott Miller's driving style, that's not a surprise, and it might be working. They're just about neck and neck going into this turn, Austin.
And here it comes. It seems to be a super close race. Elliott Miller slingshotted in a la Tom Meents there and almost comes away with that victory coming from behind against Jared Smith.
And getting up on the bus, what a race! Two totally different driving styles. That was the closest race we've seen so far. As Cyber Attack walks away with the win, it was too little, too late there at the end for Colossus. Now, as we take a look back at that race, Colossus hits the brake there going over the bus. That keeps him low to the ground, and that allows him to blast off to a lead.
Yeah, he was super aggressive this entire run. You see him basically force that truck around that berm, and he actually really nails that berm, but it seems to be struggling with the steering coming under that under part of the track, where Jared Smith starts to take the lead.
Cyber Attack stays tight in the turns, and meanwhile, Elliott's power sliding around and coming up just a little bit short. Cyber Attack will face bad news in round number 2. And now, let's move on to what was going to be a father-son matchup. Unfortunately, Tailgator's got issues with the drive shaft. The crews are working diligently on that truck. But in the meantime, Smashosaurus is going to take a bye run. Let's hear from Tripp Jones.
It's gonna be fun. There's a lot of tight turns and the long stretches. It's gonna make it difficult. You might run out of gears in some spots, but I think it's just gonna be overall be a lot of fun.
And he's got issues right there, Austin. He missed the under part of that over-under jump.
Yeah, and this was something that we talked about in qualifying. He missed that part, and it seems like he's struggling to make that turn from the berm to the under part of the over-under on this track. Going into round 2, he can't afford to miss that part when he goes up against Dalton Widner and Jurassic Attack.
No, he cannot. And as he wraps this run up, that looked like a solid pass except for that one mistake he made. But moving into round 2, there's going to be no room for error if he wants to knock off Jurassic Attack.
And now taking a look at the bracket for round 2, the 4 drivers that advanced from round 1 will now face the 4 fastest drivers from qualifying. Ryan, what's a race to look at for round 2?
I'm looking at Dozer versus Blockhead. Their teammates, Tutal is brand new to that team, and they ran similar qualifying times. I think that could be a very interesting matchup. But before we get to that, let's look at our first matchup in round number 2, and it's going to be a pair of guys who have a lot of experience on these large, wide-open tracks, John Gordon and Bad Company, and Mike Christensen and Vendetta.
And they're off over the bus stacks. John Gordon with the early lead, heading to this berm, super aggressive. John Gordon actually missing the berm, going past on over to the opposite side of the obstacle, and then getting crossed up.
Yeah, you know, for the first time all day, John Gordon had a lead coming off of that bus stack, but messing up the berm. And we know that Mike Christensen's a very smart driver. He has got a big lead right now, Austin.
John Gordon taking some notes from Elliott Miller, kind of flat tracking this track around, but not enough. As we see Mike Christensen and Vendetta crossing that finish line and becoming your racing winner there.
It wasn't even close. Vendetta is going to advance into the semifinals, and John Gordon going out maybe a little earlier than a lot of people might have thought, Austin.
100%. And we move on to the next race. This is your race to watch. It's the battle of the teammates. David Tutal Olfert in that brand new Dozer going up against Mr. Consistency, Daron Basl and Blockhead.
These are two very smart drivers that are always strong in racing, and as they put the power down and go over the bus, it looks like they're neck and neck.
They are about even up.
Ooh, a pop and some flames shooting out of Dozer as he leaves the berm. That did not look good, and he's rolling to a stop.
We still see Daron Basl still is going on with his run, but Dozer still is stopped on that other side of the racetrack. We'll have to see what was wrong with Dozer.
Yeah, and by this point, Daron Basl, he's seeing that Dozer is sitting dead on the track, and he's just going to cruise it over the finish line. It sounded like the engine popped. Hopefully, they're able to get the truck back out. As Blockhead crosses the finish line, he's going to advance into the semifinals, where he's going to take on Vendetta. But Dozer was the story in that race.
Yeah, 100%. You see they coming down pretty evenly, and then right around this berm, the truck starts to pop. Let's see what David Tutal Olfert had to say about what happened to the truck in racing.
Qualifying didn't go as it planned. Was able to get a fast enough time to go to the second round, though, which was surprising for me. and had my teammate Daron and took off the line, and she popped, backfired, and shut off. And I thought I blew a motor. Thankfully, I didn't. The distributor cap actually blew in half. I don't know how that happened, but threw a new cap on it and got her fired back up.
Well, that's good to hear. Dozer was fired back up. He's going to be back for freestyle. And as one truck leaves the track, another one enters. Bad news travels fast. As Brandon Derrow makes his way to the starting line, he's going to be racing Cyber Attack and Jared Smith.
And Brandon Derrow, one of the more consistent drivers. Let's hear what he has to say about the rest of his competition here today in Bristol.
Just go out here, man. This is an interesting course. We've never ran on anything like this before, but I love it. I think it's going to, really expose the drivers, the real true drivers on the course like this. So we're just going to go out here, have some fun, man. We're running with 11 of the other best trucks in the world. You can't assemble a better lineup than this tonight, so we can't wait, and hopefully we can come away with a win.
Even though he doesn't have experience on these long, snaking race courses, Austin, to be honest, I told everyone this morning that I thought Bad News was going to win racing. I got some odd looks, but it looks like he's headed to the semifinals.
100%. Brandon Derrow, known really as a racer, and it's nice to see him come away with that racing victory and move into the semifinals in this huge 12-truck lineup.
Oh yeah, he's looking good so far today, but he's going to have to take on the winner of this matchup, and it's either going to be Dalton Widner in Jurassic Attack or the other dinosaur, Tripp Jones in Smashosaurus. This is an interesting matchup, as Dalton Widner is a very capable and well-experienced driver. Meanwhile, Tripp Jones is the rookie.
It's a battle of the dinos here at Thunder Valley, Bristol, Tennessee. Let's see who comes up on top.
And they're just about even going into the berm, but look at Dalton Widner go through the berm. He's way ahead now.
And Tripp Jones misses that over-under again in this race, and it's all Dalton Widner so far in this race.
Yeah, Jurassic Attack made a perfect turn right there, and meanwhile, Smashosaurus, well, having even more issues, he just skipped the double jump again, this time going in the over direction. As Jurassic Attack crosses the finish line, he's going to cruise into the semifinals, where he's going to have to take on Bad News Travels Fast.
And Tripp Jones crossing that finish line. Definitely still an up and rising new driver out here on the track, still getting his feet wet in that brand new Smashosaurus truck.
Absolutely, and hey, don't go anywhere, because coming up next, two of our most consistent racers go head to head. Welcome back to Geared Up. You know, if you've ever wondered what the inside of a crushed bus looks like, there you go. You see the dirt coming in the windows and the roofs full of dents. Those buses have seen better days, but they're not the only vehicles here looking a little bit rough. Virginia Giant has seen better days too.
Yeah, Virginia Giant taking that huge crash. Let's hear what driver of Virginia Giant, Cliff Vowell, has to say and how that crash actually happened.
Oh, I'm not 100% sure what caused it, but I ended up shorting the jump, and the rear axle hit the final ramp and caused me to go up into a nose wheelie. I knew what was happening, went ahead and hit the throttle to try to come out of it. It wasn't happening, and it ended up on its lid. It was a fairly violent crash, but at the end of the day, it's nuts and bolts. We'll get it fixed and get it ready for the next one.
So unfortunately, Virginia Giant is done for tonight. I know that's not what Cliff wanted, but let's take a look at the semifinal round. No surprises here. The four semifinalists were all from the top 5 qualifiers. We're going to see Vendetta take on Blockhead, and then Jurassic Attack take on Bad News. Let's jump into it.
And you just talked about him. It's our number 1 qualifier out here, Mike Christensen in Vendetta. He's going to be taking on someone that's kind of had a little bit of a luckier night here with a couple of bye runs, Basl in Blockhead for this first race of the semifinal round.
He's definitely had luck on his side. You know, another thing I want to point out, with this track, so far, nearly every single winner has come from what is right now the far lane, the lane that Vendetta is sitting in. The only winner from the close lane has been Brandon Derrow in his race against Cyber Attack earlier. Now, as they take off, Blockhead off to a huge lead.
Yeah, you say that now, and Basl says, I can win from this lane. Basl takes off and seems to be taking that early lead, but Mike Christensen seems to be coming from behind, going around that berm. You know, Mike Christensen running that Monster Jam circuit on those berm tracks all year round, so he's definitely used to it come this show here in Bristol, Tennessee.
Yeah, you know, right now it looks like Blockhead's got a slight lead, but he has issues in the turn, swings wide. Look at Vendetta coming from behind.
And Mike Christensen comes away with the win in that first race. That is one half of the Team Throttle trucks into the final round. You know, we still have another race, but I know team manager Mike Christensen is really hoping to have both Team Throttle trucks in that final round.
Now, let's hear from Darren Basl about his racing performance tonight.
Well, racing, I mean, it started out good. Got a few by runs because people were braking, and that's part of it. Breakage is sometimes good or bad, but got a few lucky rounds. Had a nice pass going against Vendetta. I nailed those first couple of turns, and you get a bad habit, you're looking over and seeing that you're far ahead, and then you get so excited that you miss your turn. So I overdrove the last turn and lost the race. So Vendetta's always a fast one to try and beat, so it's always a fun race against him.
You know, Daron will be back out for freestyle, and that coilover truck is a lot of fun to watch as he hits these big obstacles. But in the meantime, let's look at our other heat in the semifinals round. It's going to be Dalton Widner in Jurassic Attack and Brandon Derrow in Bad News. Two guys that have been very consistent and very fast tonight.
Yeah, a little bit of a David and Goliath situation. You know, Brandon Derrow really looking out there to slay that dinosaur. They're off quick.
And they're even, look at Jurassic Attack with the brake tap as Bad News bounces down the bus stack. Jurassic Attack leads going into the berm and extends it. Dalton Widner is looking very fast today.
And you know, you've talked about it before with Dalton Widner. He seems to really slingshot around that berm and really get...
Oh, no.
And Brandon Derrow kind of losing it on that turn, and Dalton Widner seems to be running away with it.
It looks like Jurassic Attack is going to come away with the win right here as Brandon launches it coming up over that double jump, but Jurassic Attack walking away with the win. He's going to face Vendetta in the final round.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a Team Throttle meeting here in the final round of racing. You know that whole team has to be ecstatic about that. Both Dalton and Mike, great racers out here.
Yeah, both of them have a lot of experience on these long and unique racing courses. As we look at the replay, look at the brake tap by Jurassic Attack right there. He keeps the nose down, and meanwhile, Brandon Derrow bounces down the bus stack. That put Jurassic Attack out to an early lead.
Yeah, and we mentioned it before, but Dalton Widner just seems to be taking these corners so slow but so precise, even down to these hairpin turns. Whereas you kind of see Brandon Derrow here wash that truck out, kind of see that he's behind. Possibly, I think, the first time that we've seen Brandon Derrow behind in a race tonight.
Yeah, I think so. You know, asphalt racing surfaces are always difficult on monster trucks, especially in the turns. But tonight, as the dust has settled in and the rubber has settled into the asphalt, it's made it more and more difficult to navigate this racing surface. The hometown hero is going to the finals.
And as we head into the final round, while the trucks are cooling down, we have some of the workers with some live entertainment there on the side. But the trucks are now cooled on down, and it's time to head into this final round of racing.
And it's going to be a teammate matchup. As we mentioned earlier, they're headed to the starting line right now, and it's going to be Jurassic Attack and Dalton Widner taking on Mike Christensen and Vendetta. These are two guys that have a lot of experience on these wide open, complicated racing courses. And Austin, as you mentioned earlier, they're used to the berm obstacle. Now, remember, the far racing lane has seen most of the wins today. And as Jurassic Attack lines up there, if anyone's going to knock him out in the near lane, it's going to be Vendetta.
Yeah, like you said, two drivers that have been running that Monster Jam circuit with berms, so we know that they're both comfortable with that. They seem to leave pretty decently on time with each other. Dalton into the berm first and out so quickly, like we said. Dalton really knows how to master those berms.
And that's not good right there for Vendetta. Meanwhile, Jurassic Attack making what might be the tightest turn we've seen all day. He's out to a big lead.
Yeah, and Vendetta really hoping that there's any mistake made by Dalton Widner. But as we can kind of see, Dalton Widner going over that roller and going across that finish line. Dalton Widner is your racing winner here in Bristol, Tennessee.
So the hometown hero wins racing as Vendetta crosses the finish line, but it wasn't without controversy. Let's take a look at the replay. Look at Jurassic Attack's starting line on the right. It turns green, but look at Vendetta.
Yeah, 100% Vendetta's light seeming to not go green right away. We talked about it in qualifying. We've been keeping an eye out on it. We saw it bite Elliott Miller in qualifying. It seems to rear its head once again here in this final round with Jurassic Attack and Vendetta.
But even if they got off the line together, something small like that early on, it eats away at your mind, it gives you that anxiety, and it causes you to make mistakes like that. I'm sure Mike Christensen was not happy with the way that race started, but it's up for interpretation. Should they have rerun the race? Should they have left it as is? The overdrive officials say that was the race, and Jurassic Attack, Dalton Widner, is walking out of Bristol, a racing champion, as he hoists the trophy above his head. What an awesome win in front of his parents, in front of his hometown crowd. Now it's time for freestyle. Cyber Attack is going to start us off, and it's coming up next on Geared Up.
And welcome back to Geared Up. We're here in Bristol, Tennessee. We just saw Dalton Widner come away with that racing championship. Now we're seeing them do some track maintenance out here before freestyle, adding a little bit of padding so that when these drivers hit that backflip, they can land on a little bit more dirt and those cages aren't necessarily hitting right on that asphalt.
Well, hopefully no one's cage is hitting on the asphalt. Hopefully everyone lands the backflip, at least everyone who goes for it. Now, first up in freestyle, it's going to be Cyber Attack with Jared Smith. Let's talk to Jared about what he thinks about this freestyle course.
The freestyle course looks cool. I saw the backflip ramp. I may or may not hit it. I'm going out first, so I don't know if I want to turn it up that early, but we'll see. It's going to be really cool. Everything looks like you can pretty much hit it as hard as you want, and you're not going to go too crazy high, but you're going to go really far out, which I think is going to be really cool from the view in the stands. So it's going to be awesome.
First guy out, we're already talking about the backflip. I hope that's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I know all these drivers are really eyeing that backflip ramp to kind of see when could be the best time to hit that. But for now, Jared Smith putting on a pretty good run out here with some good air out here, especially to start out this freestyle competition.
Yeah, you know, Jared Smith really got to learn the ropes of being a full-time driver earlier this year on the toughest monster truck tour. So even if he's a relatively inexperienced driver, you'll learn a lot doing a grueling series like that, and he definitely knows what he's doing. Now, I want to make a note about how we're scoring each freestyle. We've got 6 professional judges, each scoring 1 to 10, and we'll drop the high and low score, so everyone's final score will be out of 40. It's basically old world finals scoring, Austin.
100%. And I would not want to be a judge. This is 12 of some of the best trucks out there in the country. This is going to be a hard competition out here to score. Jared's proven it already. This could be a big number to start the freestyle competition.
Yeah, he's been moving around from jump to jump pretty well. That's something that rookies oftentimes struggle with. He's gotten some good air hits, and look at that, a nice sky wheelie landing right on top of the bus.
A beautiful hit for sure. And Jared Smith, new to this chassis actually. Not new necessarily to the team, but Jared Smith taking over the driving duties of this chassis from Jack Brown, his former teammate, this year.
Yeah, you know, he had some big shoes to fill, and he's doing it well as he gets up on 2 wheels right there, and it looks like he's going to whip it into a donut. Look at him lay the rubber, kick up the smoke, and spin some cyclones as he wraps up his run right there. Austin, let's take a look back at it.
100%. You see that sky wheelie on top of the bus, having a great crushing moment on top of that bus stack. And then what you were talking about, getting high-sided with a score of a 22 to start off the freestyle competition.
That was a good way to kick it off, getting some cyclones, some sky wheelies, some good jumps, and good momentum throughout. Now, let's move on to our next competitor. It's going to be Bad News Travels Fast and Brandon Derrow, a guy who I think turned some heads in racing. He made it to the semifinals. Let's see what he can do in freestyle.
Brandon really known for getting those slap wheelies, and before I even finish my sentence, he's already out there getting those slap wheelies. You know, Brandon known a little bit more as a racer, but can throw down with some big dogs out there. You know, we did talk about seeing him previously on the Monster Jam circuit on some stadium floors. This a little bit different, and it has been a couple of years, but Brandon can throw down with some of the best of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as he kicks up the smoke right here, going for some donuts, you know, on a wide open, massive track like this, where the obstacles are so far spread apart, if he can get the truck to land right, he can definitely get a slap wheelie, and he can really ride it out a long ways. So far, he's been moving from obstacle to obstacle pretty well, but we just haven't seen the big air that we saw out of Cyber Attack quite yet.
100%. And that score to beat sitting at 22 right now from Cyber Attack. These judges are definitely going to be comparing these two runs together. So really, like you said, it is a little bit comparing these apples to apples, and there it is.
Oh yeah, there we go. Getting the slap wheelie that we were expecting, and he used really the whole course. He's way down in the corner of the infield right now, and look at the track crew give him a little bit of a wave as he turns back around and heads back out.
I think Brandon thought that we were at the drag strip that's actually in this complex. He forgot that we were at the NASCAR track riding that slap wheelie out for so long out there on the track.
Oh yeah, the way Brandon sets his truck up, you know, it's really designed for slap wheelies. As he makes this jump, watch how the front of the truck bounces up right there. That bounce allows him to get those slap wheelies. But if he, say, you know, jumps 30 feet in the air, that's really going to make the front end of the truck bounce up, and that landing is going to hurt. So he doesn't always get the big air, but this truck is able to get slap wheelies, and, you know, also he's keeping this run flowing pretty well.
Yeah, one thing that Brandon definitely seems to have as an edge over Jared is it does seem like his momentum is a little bit better than Jared Smith. So where maybe he's not making it up in air, he does seem to have the momentum. And there's a little bit of that air that we were just saying that he was missing out on.
Yeah, maybe I spoke too soon. That was a good launch right there. And sure enough, the front end of the truck bounced back up. You know, I've been watching Brandon since he started, and the jumps he's gotten over these racing double jumps has been some of the biggest I've ever seen for bad news. What an awesome opportunity this has been, and probably the biggest show he's done, and at least since he's done Monster Jam stadiums, I'm sure.
And Brandon out here really known for keeping that run going for as long as possible, similar to his arch rival Cliff Vowell, coming on out here and putting on a very long run out here on this track. And he seems to be going to that front stretch for something.
Yeah, you know, another thing we should have mentioned about Brandon Derrow is he's not too far from home. He's just a few hours drive down I-81 from Port Republic, Virginia, where he calls home. And it looks like he's going to wrap it up right there as we take a look at the replays. A sky wheelie, a slap wheelie, another slap wheelie right here. This was awesome.
Yeah, and that slap wheelie, taking it to the next zip code. He might have been taking it back to Port Republic, Virginia. And the score, a 21, coming up just 1 point short of our current leader, Jared Smith and Cyber Attack.
But regardless, you can tell that Brandon was pumped up right there. He had a great day. Now, next up in freestyle, we're going to move on with Smashosaurus and Tripp Jones. Let's hear about his plans for freestyle.
I want to try a stoppie. I want to find somewhere to do a stoppie at. I think that's the only goal I have. Just get a good one.
Well, one hit in and mission accomplished already. I guess you can drive it back to the trailer, tire down, pack up, and head out.
I will say he is such a brand new driver. He's also so young out there in this truck. Pulling off a stoppie is a move that some veterans of the sport still are kind of working and trying to hone in on. So the fact that Tripp Jones can pull that off with his first move is kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's learning and learning very quickly. You know, doing a show of this scale, it's like being thrown off the deep end. As right there, that's some of the biggest air we've seen so far today. When it comes to stoppies and this new generation of stunts, it's really mostly the younger drivers that we see mastering them. And look at the left rear there on Smashosaurus. It looks like he's got a problem. It looks like one of those shock towers is hanging.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like the truck might be hurting around. He might be limping around, but he's still attacking this course, attacking that van stack or that bus stack, and actually getting some huge air off of it.
The shock hanging off, but nonetheless, he's still moving along, and it looks like he's going to go for another stoppie. Now, as he gets it up on the nose, some of the fans might be wondering, why don't we have a stunt showdown or a best trick competition, something where the drivers can compete, you know, and show off their skills, their nose wheelies and whatnot. And, you know, one complaint that we hear a lot with larger shows is that it just gets boring and monotonous when one truck after another does, you know, the same moves, the same nose wheelies. So we wanted to have a qualifying bracket instead and really focus on that racing bracket rather than something that was going to be slow and monotonous potentially.
100%. Another thing, that racing track was so long. These trucks need some time to cool down. You see Smashosaurus kind of smoking a little bit, and you also see the shock that you mentioned. That racing track was very hard on these trucks, so they definitely need some time to cool down and also prepare for this freestyle competition. You see Smashosaurus drifting it out into that far corner,
laying some rubber and having some fun. You know, one thing I've noticed with this run is he has had a few slow moments where it looked like he was searching and, you know, driving around obstacles. But overall, I think this was a pretty solid run. I think he's going to get a good score.
I think so too. And the score is 17. A lot of crowd boos from this. A lot of the crowd thinking that that score should have been higher, if not the leader.
That was surprisingly low, but hey, don't go anywhere. Colossus is up next in freestyle. He's going to lay some rubber. Welcome back to Bristol Motor Speedway as we take a look at the trophies that these guys are competing for. There's the freestyle trophy right there. You saw Dalton Widner holding the racing trophy earlier. And look at that, Tailgator making his way back out on the track. We're going to see Tim Jones freestyle tonight, Austin. How awesome is that?
That'll be so nice to see. But on the track right now, Elliott Miller in Colossus. Let's hear what he has to say for his plans for freestyle tonight.
The freestyle course looks pretty cool. Overdrive Monster Trucks always does it up, so I think it'll be a really cool track. It's got enough room where you can be technical, but you can still do some bonsai stuff. And the best part about tonight is that I get to burn rubber on the Bristol Motor Speedway racing surface. Who else can say that they've done that? Only a few amount of people. It'll be really cool.
And Elliott Miller specifically putting those super ball tires on his truck for this show to burn some rubber out here on Bristol Motor Speedway. Also, you'll notice this truck is pretty loud tonight. Elliott running the zoomies, you know, this place also known as Thunder Valley, so really bringing the thunder out here in Bristol, Tennessee.
Oh yeah, I mean, mission accomplished, right? He's already laid some rubber on this track and he's already made that engine scream. I love Elliott's chaotic driving style, and if he can keep this up, I really think this is going to be a new leader.
Yeah, this is by far the best momentum that we have seen tonight. Elliott really going from one hit to another, and an awesome sky wheelie.
That was perfect right there, launching it up like a rocket ship. You know, Elliott is an interesting driver. He started out as a fan, and he turned that fandom into, well, I mean, a two-truck team. He promotes his own shows with Monster Truck Throwdown. During the winter, he runs the All-Star Tour as a competitor. You know, in a lot of ways, I'd say he's living like the dream monster truck life, as right there he puts it up on the nose for a stoppie.
And it seems like he said, that's not good enough. I want to try this again. Elliott going for this nose wheelie. Let's see if he can be the first driver to possibly walk that truck back into the moonwalk.
You know, we don't have a skills competition tonight, but I think Elliott wants to do the best skills move regardless.
And there he goes, walking it back.
Look at that. We haven't seen that tonight. That was perfect right there. You know, for a second, I thought he lost it. It leaned a little bit far forward, but he pulled it back, and it looks like he's going to keep going, Austin.
When looking at, you know, truck history of this truck, this is actually the old Vendetta chassis. So before the current chassis that you'll see Vendetta out there running with now, this was Mike Christensen's chassis, repowder coated to be black and right under the Colossus body there.
And how awesome does Colossus look with those black rims? And look at him kicking up a storm right there. That's what Elliott wanted to do today.
That is some crazy donuts there. Elliott Miller going crazy out here, bringing out this Colossus body specifically for this show in honor of the Colossus Jumbotron that's actually hanging up right above where he's actually at right now on the track.
Oh, nice. Look at that. He walks it down the other side. Just like his hero, Dave Rappage, Elliott walking it across the obstacle. I know that made him happy.
And Elliott coming to a stop right there on the front stretch. What a great run that we just saw from him with a little bit of everything. Some great momentum. We see this stoppie. We see this moonwalk.
I'ma start a fight with the judges if this doesn't take the lead. The donuts, the sky wheelies, the nose wheelie. This was an awesome run.
This sky wheelie was probably the best move that we've seen all night here.
Oh, I agree, absolutely. It looks like Elliott's gonna give us a little extra donut. Let's listen to those zoomies scream. Wrapping it up right there. Colossus, your new leader with a 30 as Elliott waves to the crowd. Let's hear what he thought about his freestyle run.
Freestyle was pretty fun. Got to hit a bunch of different things, and then, you know, like I talked about earlier, burn some rubber on the racing surface. So it was super fun. Hope you guys enjoy this show, and hopefully we come back next year with overdrive monster trucks.
Well, moving on. Next up, it's going to be a guy who had some issues in racing. They thrashed, they got the truck back together. This is David Too Tall Olfert and Dirt Crew Dozer.
Yeah, and Too Tall taking a little bit of a break this first half of the year. A great slap wheelie coming out here, but bringing out this brand new piece. This is a brand new truck, top to bottom. You know, they took it out in Jerry Beck's backyard. Too Tall ran it into a stoppy nose wheelie, set it down, tells Jerry, okay, let's pack it up and send it out to Bristol. This truck has barely been ran at all. This is its first freestyle out there on the track.
Yeah, you know, oh, look at that air right there. A hard landing on the left front. This is quite the show to break a brand new monster truck into. But so far, it looks like the truck is running really well. He's driving it very aggressively, moving around the floor very nicely. I like this.
Yeah, and we can't forget either. Not only is it a new piece, but he is running with a completely new team, a new boss, you know, a new piece, a new identity. This is completely different sight lines. Before we saw David Too Tall Olfert in the Velociraptor truck from the Team Throttle camp. This is a little bit of different sight lines with this Dozer truck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking to him earlier today, he said that the visibility out of this truck isn't quite as bad as it would look. You know, that big blade on the front, it might look like it blocks a lot of the view, but he said it wasn't too bad. Of course, it does block a little bit more than his Velociraptor body did, but so far he seems to be handling it pretty well and getting used to it pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and another driver out here that has had that experience on some of the bigger floors previously the year before, competing on the Monster Jam circuit, even making it actually into the Monster Jam World Finals bracket, earning his way through the last chance qualifier. Too Tall is no slouch.
Yeah, that experience on large tracks is really showing. He is handling this track masterfully. As it looked like he went for a slap wheelie right there, he just didn't have the grip for it. And going for a donut right there, kicking up the dust, laying a little bit of rubber, and it looks like he's going to come to an end as he comes over to us and revs the engine. Now, taking a look at the replays, this right here, I did not expect him to jump that high off of such a little ramp, and then of course getting a slap wheelie, some big air, a hard landing on the left, and this donut to end his run. Now, right now, the score to beat is a 30 put up by Colossus, and as we wait for the score for Dozer, it's going to be a 24, so he's going to go into second for the moment. Colossus still leads. Let's hear what Too Tall thought of that run.
Just getting used to the truck. Shocks were a little soft. I didn't know where to set them at. You know, they're brand new, coming from John Gordon. You know, he gave us some good shocks, and he didn't know where to set them at either. So I just ballparked it, and they were close. You know, but it was a little soft. But I was having fun. You know, brand new truck works really, really well. I'm excited for this summer. You know, get the shocks dialed in, and we're really gonna have some fun.
It certainly looked like that truck was working well, and it looked like he was having a lot of fun out with that freestyle. Now, let's look at Mike Christensen and Vendetta.
You know, Mike's had a pretty good night out here. He was the fastest qualifier earlier tonight. He came up just short. He was a runner-up in racing. Now he's out here to hopefully get that victory here in freestyle.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does in freestyle. He's known as more of a racer, but he's not a slouch in freestyle. He's won some major stadium freestyle championships before, so we know he can do it. It's just, will he turn it up tonight?
Yeah, Mike Christensen, like we talked about, the leader of Team Throttle Monster. You know, we have the 2 trucks here, but this team has expanded out to 8 trucks as they are currently. So, you know, Mike Christensen, not only a driver, but really managing this entire fleet of monster trucks out there in the country.
Yeah, you know, and what's really impressive about that is Team Throttle Monster didn't even exist a decade ago. Of all the major monster truck teams out there, Throttle Monster is pretty much the youngest, and they're one of the best, and that was not good. Did you see the front left there, Austin?
Yeah, it seemed like that front left seemed to kind of seize up on that truck. It seems like he is starting to pull off.
Yeah, that's going to be it for Vendetta as we take a look at the replay. Look at the left front tire right here as it pops back up. It is not moving. Vendetta broken right there, and it's only going to be a score of 14. So Colossus still leads with a score of 30, but coming up next, we've still got a couple more guys trying to knock Colossus off for that freestyle win. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Bristol. We're going to jump right back into it with another freestyle. In Austin, it's the Flying Dump Truck.
Jerry Beck and the Dirt Crew, a known freestyler. Let's hear what he has to say about this freestyle track.
Freestyle is going to be big. There's big jumps out there, a lot of room, a lot of room to do a lot of stuff.
A lot of room to do a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, I can't disagree with them. Well said. It's a pretty massive track. Now, looking at the top 3 in freestyle right now, Colossus is still at the top of the leaderboard with a 30-point score, but he's followed by Dozer and Cyber Attack. Now, Jerry Beck owns Dozer and Cyber Attack. I'm sure he'd love to show his guys that he's still the boss.
And Jerry Beck kind of going for the same move that we saw David Too Tall Olfert going for in Dozer, hitting that landing ramp from the over and under and trying to sky it off of that.
Yeah, he definitely skied it, and there he goes skying it again. A big air launch and a hard landing on the front. You know, going back to that hit from earlier, he landed really hard on the side, and I mean, like 10 years ago, a lot of trucks wouldn't have survived this. The fact that this truck is still running is a testament to how well these trucks are built nowadays.
100%, and regardless of how old this truck is, Jerry Beck's still piloting too many wins. Now, the 2-time Toughest Monster Truck Tour champion this year and celebrating a decade of dirt. Jerry Beck running this Dirt Crew identity now for 10 years.
Yeah, the evidence of that championship littered all over this body. There's probably a couple hundred bolts in it holding it together from the who knows how many times Jerry Beck rolled it over going for that championship. Now, Austin, this truck really reminds me of that age-old question of, if you take an old ship and you replace every board on it one by one, is it a new ship or is it still the same old ship? You know, because this truck is like 30 years old. I think it started life in the early 90s as Nightmare. And over the years, it's been front halved and back halved. I believe the cradle was redone by PEI. So is this still that same 30-year-old truck, or is it a brand new truck? I think there's a few ways of looking at it.
Yeah, and regardless of how much has been done to this truck, Jerry Beck still puts forward a great job in terms of freestyle. Jerry Beck already getting some huge air out here, you know, trying to top that score from Colossus right now.
Yeah, this has been a good run so far. You know, he's had some big air, and Dirt Crew is definitely a truck that's known for big air and wild freestyles. You know, something else I wanted to mention about this truck, at least on a personal note, is one of the first trucks I ever saw was Jay Snyder's Screamin' Demon, and once upon a time this was Screamin' Demon, so it's always fun when I get to see this truck and see how far it's come since those days, Screamin' Demon.
And speaking of Screamin' Demon, Jerry Beck taking that truck into a high-speed cyclone, screaming that truck here. And in his freestyle off, let's take a look at the replay. You see that huge sky wheelie kind of getting a little bit twisted up. You know, they have a big show coming up next weekend for the Monsters on the Beach. That whole DCT team still has to kind of make their way on over to the beach show and the score with a 28.
So right now that's going to put him in second place behind Colossus, but it's going to put him ahead of his two teammates that already ran earlier today. And speaking of Jerry's teammates, here comes the fourth and final member of the DCT team. It's Daron, Basl, and Blockhead, and he comes out blasting over top of those bus stacks, Austin.
Yeah, and I talked about it in racing. Jerry calls him the professor for a reason. He's very technical. Let's see what he can do out there on the track.
Oh,
and right
nice.
When I say it, he performs probably the best sky wheelie we saw. We saw Elliott Miller perform that sky wheelie and riding it down, but the vertical positioning on that wheelie that we just saw from Daron Basl was probably the best we've seen all night.
Oh yeah, Daron is one of my favorite drivers to watch in freestyle, actually. The way this truck handles is just so unique and chaotic looking, and that is not good right there. You can see air rolling out of that left front tire, the official shutting him off. You can see on the windshield right there, and it's only going to be a score of 16. You can see the gash on the tire right there. Let's talk to Daron about that freestyle.
Just went out there and tried to get it a little bigger with Blockhead, and a couple hits in, and was doing good. Popped the tire off of one jump, and instead of tearing up the track, they shut me off so I wouldn't do any track damage. But that's the way it goes. Parts break, can't fall in love with the parts, so we'll try harder next time.
You know, Daron, I wouldn't beat yourself up too bad. I mean, like you said, sometimes the parts break, and That's just the way it goes. You know, we can't have a truck running around beating up the surface at Bristol Motor Speedway. Now, Austin, let's move on with our next competitor.
Yeah, and he is one of my favorites for the freestyle competition. He's crazy. It is Tim Jones in Tailgator. You know, we saw his son go out there in Smashosaurus. Tim Jones lining up for this move that we've not seen anyone hit.
Look at that. That's the first time we've seen someone jump over that. Let's talk to Tim Jones about freestyle tonight.
Freestyle, man, that thing is going to be set up for every man. You got some big air hits, you got some wide open for landings, you got some skill stuff set in there. There's a container set in there for somebody that's going to, you know, try a backflip. You know, them doubles. I mean, I'm walking around it. You can hit about everything, any direction you want to go. So it's going to make, you know, for a great freestyle in and out. I mean, hands down, this is going to be an iconic show.
You know, it's interesting. Tailgator nowadays is known as a freestyle truck, but that hasn't always been the case. Tim Jones actually didn't create Tailgator. It was created by a guy named Doug Nolke. That's a nice skywheeler right there, by the way. It was created by a guy named Doug Nolke probably about 20 years ago or so. And Nolke was known as much more of a racer, not so much a freestyler. So ever since Tim Jones has started running Tailgator, the vibes with this truck have totally changed.
100%. It's been so awesome seeing the rise of Tim Jones over the last 5 or so years. Tim Jones really cutting his teeth in those smaller arenas and working his way up, especially through the toughest monster truck tour. You can see through this running.
Uh-oh. The truck rolling to a stop.
And the truck seems to shut off right there. He picks it back up, but hopefully he can keep his momentum back up, and it goes back at it with some huge air. He's had some great momentum, some slap wheelies. Let's see what else he can add to top that leader right now. That is Elliott Miller and Colossus.
Yeah, so Colossus leads right now with the 30. Now, Tailgator's laying down a good run so far. The air we've seen over those bus stacks has been second to none so far tonight. And as right here, it looks like, yeah, going for a slap wheelie. You know, I mentioned Doug Nolke earlier. When it came to freestyle, that's what Doug Nolke was known for, those slap wheelies.
Yeah, and Tim Jones working his way around the track. He seems to be slowing down. He might be lining up for something.
I think he's going for the backflip, Austin. He's the first one to hit it. Let's see what happens.
Let's see if he can make it. Oh, and he just makes the backflip.
Just barely. He landed on the nose, kicked it over to the side, and he got it.
The first one to hit the backflip, and keeps on going. A beautiful sky wheelie right on after that. It seems like just cosmetic damage. Tim Jones does not seem to be letting off with a huge jump over that over-under.
Yeah, he
track.
cleared the landing ramp right there. That was probably the longest jump we've seen all day today. You know, they say after you do a backflip, there's just an adrenaline rush like no other. And that, I think, is what Tim Jones is feeling right now as he goes for a cyclone, kicking up the dust and laying some rubber. We can't even see him right now as he gets lost in that cloud.
They say follow the light of the eye.
Yeah, you know, this is a classic Tim Jones freestyle right here as he makes another hit. And it looks like he's going to go back for the bus stack. What a run he's having. I think Elliott knows that he's done off the top of that leaderboard. I think we're going to have a new leader.
Yeah, this as he goes up to the front stretch, you can tell this run has about had everything. Really, the only thing that you could say that he didn't have was Elliott Miller's, you know, nose wheelie to moonwalk. Didn't have there, but I mean, even down to the donuts he does in the front stretch. Tim Jones seems to have it all in this freestyle run.
And it looks like he's going to wrap it up there as he drives off the track and waves to the crowd. Let's take a look at the replay. It was packed with action.
This is how it started.
Yeah, it was packed with action from start to finish. Big air, followed by another big air hit. What an awesome run.
Yeah, it was crazy. And Tim Jones kind of getting a little bit of whip action in a slap wheelie. And there it is. The score, a 36. No one's going to have to fight the judges on this one. I think we can all agree. Tim Jones and Tailgator should be your leader and is your leader with that score of a 36.
And this is how we did it right here. You know, if I was a Monster Jam host, I would probably call that a backflip to bicycle combination. What a move. Hey, there's still 2 guys left. They're going vertical next on Geared Up.
Welcome back to Geared Up here in Bristol. Coming out next, it is John Gordon in Bad Company.
We've got 2 guys left, and they're probably going to be 2 of the toughest competitors tonight. Now, let's hear what John Gordon thinks about freestyle tonight in Bristol.
As far as freestyle, it's cool. There's a lot of cool obstacles, but you almost got to drive somewhat a little bit reserved out there because there's a lot of obstacles to trip on, and it's a lot of jumping to flat. And as you all know, we're here at Bristol. It's on asphalt, so you got to be careful on the trip hazards going to asphalt. But there's a few exciting things out there, and I think everybody's going to like the show.
And speaking of exciting things, John Gordon going out there, starting using that trench box to do a move that we call a tombstone, getting the truck up onto the front 2 tires.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was actually the first time I've ever seen that. Personally, you saw him get a little bit close to the buses down there. Those are actually placed there to protect the buildings. Look at that. This is a good start to this run. What a start to freestyle for Bad Company. This could be a new leader. And speaking of leaders, right now, Tailgator in the lead with the 36, Colossus in second, and Dirt Crew in third, as John Gordon is skirting all around this track.
Yeah, and John Gordon's going to need to keep up the pace. You know, we saw Tim Jones and Tailgator throw down an absolutely awesome freestyle out there. He's going to have to continue this momentum throughout the run, maybe even throw in another backflip here in this run to get that lead.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the fans would love to see another backflip. You know, I don't really want to see him tear this body up though. The holographic look is just so clean. It looks so good, especially under the stadium lights out here. It really just makes those colors pop and really brings this truck together.
And John Gordon debuting this truck at World Finals in Nashville a couple of years ago. You know, John Gordon, no stranger to these big tracks on out here, especially with this truck. He did take this truck straight out of the shop the first time it's ran all year long, but he's definitely putting it through its paces.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, one thing that's interesting about the competition at this point is, you know, every obstacle has been hit from, you know, pretty much every single direction as he gets a little sideways there, just like Dirt Crew did earlier. And it kind of becomes hard to separate yourself from the competition when you go out this late. But nonetheless, John Gordon is really putting down some big air, really moving around this track with a lot of speed, and it looks like he's going for a donut.
Yeah, and it looks like he's trying to throw up some dirt and burn some rubber out there on the track. I think we lost him.
Yeah, he's somewhere in that cloud of dust. We can't see him. I bet it was a great cyclone, but I guess we'll never know, and it looks like that's it for him.
And let's take a look at the replay. John Gordon Beck Company starting with this awesome move. I would say possibly the highlight of his run there, outside of this awesome sky wheelie.
And this was probably my favorite part of the run. Right up on the tailgate on the top of that bus, and once again landing hard on that right side. You see the body pretty much rubbing up against the wheels, and it looks like he's not done. I think he's going to do a little bit of an encore right here, Austin.
Yeah, a little something for the fans. John Gordon seems to be lining up for a move.
I don't think that was what he wanted. It looked like he was going for a nose wheelie, and it just didn't quite pop up the way he wanted it to. I think he's going to go for it again.
Yeah, this is the same obstacle we saw Tripp and
oh man,
doesn't seem to get that one either. We did see Tripp Jones as well as Elliott get it on that obstacle.
Yeah, that was a rough ending to a really good run. A 32, that's going to put him in second. I mean, it was a great run, just with a kind of an awkward ending there, as now we only have one competitor left. If anyone's going to knock Tim Jones off, it's going to be the hometown kid, the hero, Dalton Widner in Jurassic Attack.
And Dalton Widner been running hard all year. Another one that's really known a little bit more as a racer, but we've definitely seen a lot of these drivers race around this freestyle course. Dalton already seems to be using this freestyle course as a race course with his momentum.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. You know, I've noticed an interesting trend. It seems like a lot of the trucks that did really good in racing didn't quite fare as well in freestyle. You know, like Vendetta and Blockhead, they were strong in racing, but not quite as strong in freestyle. But then guys like Elliott with Colossus, and maybe like Too Tall, They struggled in racing, but they came out and had really good freestyles. So it seems like no one's really dominated this event yet, but if someone can dominate tonight, it's going to be Dalton Widner with the Jurassic attack.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to how tough this track has been on these trucks with the asphalt, with the dirt. This long race course that they ran earlier today that Dalton came away with the win, and these huge jumps that they're hitting for freestyle. It's hard on the trucks. A lot of these trucks experiencing some parts breakage. We've seen some crashes. We've seen a lot of carnage. Let's see if we can see some more from Dalton Widner.
Yeah, you know, part of me kind of doesn't want him to wreck it. This is such a good-looking truck. Throttle Monster always keeps their equipment in top-notch condition. You know, one thing I really like about this truck, Austin, is the fuel tank on the back of the truck. They light it up green, and it kind of reminds me of like radioactive waste in cartoons, lit up green like that.
And the first cross thread that I think we've seen all night, trying something different.
Yeah, we haven't seen that obstacle hit that way yet. Like I said earlier, when you go this late in freestyle, it can be difficult to differentiate yourself, but that was different right there.
Yeah, I know Dalton going on out here wants to make a name for himself in front of his family out there in the stands. Looks like he's lining up for something.
And it looks like a slap, really. And he's got it. He's riding it. Look at the sparks running the wheelie bar down the asphalt. You got to be careful. You don't want to, you know, tear up a nice facility like this. But I know the fans certainly appreciated that.
Yeah, and I know I talked to Dalton before he went out for freestyle. He said one of his main goals for freestyle tonight was to get a bumper dragon wheelie out there and get some sparks going for that night sky. Already fulfilling that. Let's see what else he can get going for his freestyle here.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. He hasn't really had a super big wow moment yet. I don't know if this is going to be able to knock off Tim Jones from the leaderboard as he goes for a donut, and Austin, that might be it for him.
That does seem like it is it. Is it enough to beat a 36? I'm not so sure. We'll look at the replay right now. We saw some good air out of him, not the biggest, but really kind of the main highlight being this bumper dragon wheelie. Like we talked about, the sparks coming on out. Definitely a technical driver.
Yeah, that slap wheelie was perfect. Definitely the best one we've seen today. And then he laid some rubber and did some donuts here before wrapping his run up. It was a good run, but I don't think that was enough for the win.
In the score of a 30, not quite enough to take the lead, and that means with the score of a 36, your freestyle winner, Tim Jones in Tailgator. You see him cheering on with the crowd with that huge trophy. Tim Jones putting on a show here tonight.
That was a well-deserved win, no doubt. He was the only one who hit the backflip ramp, and that was what got him that first place finish in freestyle. Second place going to Bad Company, and a tie for third between Colossus and Jurassic Attack.
Yeah, this has been a great show out here in the Thunder Valley at the Last Great Coliseum. We see a lot of carnage here tonight from everything.
No doubt, this show is going down in monster truck history. What a night of competition. Racing was tricky and tough, and slow was fast. Jurassic Attack earned every single victory. Freestyle was a little bit of everything. Big air, smoking donuts, stoppies, wheelies, and of course, Tailgator's backflip. Dalton Widner and Tim Jones are leaving Bristol as champions. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been Geared Up.